Hello, my name is Joe Vandegrift, and I was a pre-ministerial student at Taylor, advised not to major in Bible studies since this would be covered in seminary. Asbury Seminary didn't care what kind of sheepskin I had, so I had the unusual luxury of choosing any major I wanted. So for 2 years I took lots of introductory courses to see what I liked, and finally decided to join the campus weirdos in psychology because here is where I discovered, to my amazement, that I was a person and what made me tick. While at Taylor, I met a pretty farm girl from Swayze, and now our granddaughter is a third-generation student at Taylor. I actually graduated unnotably in '66, having crammed 4 years of college into 5. For 6 years, I was the United Methodist pastor in the North Indiana Conference, frustrated the whole time by a sense of missing my real calling. So I started all over again and went to Purdue to study electrical engineering, my real passion. I studied along with students who had been kids in my church youth groups. We had 2 children at the time, and my wife supported me through all that turmoil. I found very fulfilling and rewarding work designing pacemakers in Texas, where we still live. And yes, I like Texas barbecue now, but no, I still don't say y'all. My spiritual journey has been marked with struggles, starting soon after Taylor, with a nagging sense that there was something missing, fueled by reading the Bible, especially the Gospels of Jesus, and then looking at my life and my church. It seemed to me that we weren't matching up very well with the Bible. I almost gave up on God until slowly I began to realize that the something missing was not just in me, but was missing in the popular Christianity that I knew, as commonly proclaimed in most churches and the religious media. For example, it slowly dawned on me years later that the small town church in Indiana that took me in and led me to Jesus and to Taylor had actually been on the wrong side of the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s. We took up sides with the white oppressors, not the oppressed. The Jesus we praised every Sunday was a white Jesus who had no concern about justice in the world or compassion for the poor. We were racists. We were blind to the Jesus of the Gospels who would never do that. We couldn't even love other Christians if they didn't believe just like we did, and especially if they were Catholics. What has helped me the most in the last 20 years or so and kept me from giving up on the church is the many authors writing about what's missing in conventional Christianity, like The Hole in Our Gospel and Unfinished from the president of World Vision, Richard Stearns, and many authors like Philip Yancey, Jim Wallace, Shane Claiborne, Dallas Willard, N.T. Wright, Marcus Borg, and especially Brian McLaren. Now, if your heretic alarm goes off, just remember Martin Luther was called heretic too by the establishment. I believe American Christianity is in a mess and needs a good reformation. Any gospel that does not include a strong measure of justice and love for all people has a hole in it so big 1 billion poor people can walk through and hardly be noticed. Friends, it's not just about going to heaven and nothing else matters. So my journey with Jesus has been over a bumpy road with lots of late night soul searching and agony and doubts and confusion, with God exposing my pride and prejudices, my hypocrisies, selfishness, and cowardice. Things not pleasant to deal with. But God is loving me through it all, helping me to face my real self and drawing me closer to Jesus, and blessing me so much along the way that now I want to be a blessing every day as much as possible. And this time around, I don't want to be on the wrong side of justice again. So I support gay rights against the discrimination and persecution coming from my Christian community. I want my church to promote justice around the world, to not escape from the world's pressing problems, but to jump in and be world changers for Jesus, to stand up for the outcast rather than judging and condemning, to not just donate to the poor, but to work against the forces of evil that make them poor. I want God to break my heart and my church with the things that break His heart. I've written quite a bit along these lines, and I pray that I can live my remaining years with a growing love for God, with a compassion for all of God's creation and all God's people. I'm grateful for my time at Taylor University, especially including Miss Caruth for awakening in me a lifelong love of classical music. And I pray that Taylor will be a part of the reformation of a new Christianity and not get left behind. Here I stand. May God help me.